We want to thank You Starts Foundation, Ouverture with the Arts, and Malik Shahid for putting this event together.
Nous aimerions aussi remercier nos partisans, Evenco, Event Pro, En Vivo, la commission scolaire Lester B. Pearson, l'Église luthérienne, Corey Swartco, Desjardins, Sibu Tast et Quesada. Nous tenons également à souligner la présence de Sonny Santos, conseiller politique du député de Robert Baldwin.
I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is a traditional and unceded territory of the Mohawk, a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst nations before their land was taken from them.
En ce moment, nous aimerions prendre une minute de silence pour la famille Salman de London, en Ontario, qui a été victime d'une attente terroriste cette semaine. Veuillez prendre ce moment avec nous pour honorer leur mémoire.
My name is Akila Newton, and I'm the founder and executive director of Overture with the Arts. At Overture with the Arts, we are a nonprofit that's dedicated to providing free and low-cost art workshops to youth in the community. And we believe that the arts has a power to unite communities. We make a conscious effort to use the arts as a tool to communicate social injustices, and we equip youth with the tools to do the same. And this past year has left many members of the Black community with a heavy heart, as we saw countless lives of Black men, women, and children taken at the hands of police. The death of George Floyd in May 2020 sparked international protest and reconfirmed that racism is still very much a thing, still very much a problem as well. And although many people think that Canada is a safe haven void of racism and discrimination, this clearly is not the case. Just last week, we saw a beautiful Muslim family in London, Ontario, who went for a walk, and they were a victim of hate crime, and 4 of the 5 members are no longer with us anymore. The BIPOC community is in pain. We've been fighting for equality for centuries, and the fight is nowhere near being over. Yes, there have been steps in the right direction, but we won't have anything until we have equity, and we need to have real justice. So whatever your skin color, whatever your religion, whatever language you speak, whatever your sexual orientation is, you deserve to be respected and you deserve equal rights. So Black people and marginalized groups did not create racism and discrimination, and we need your support and the support of allies to right all these wrongs as we continue to fight these injustices. So we need to come together and unite as one and create positive, lasting changes. Thank you.
Merci tout particulier aux organisateurs de cet événement. Et c'est le fun de voir la jeunesse se mobiliser pour une lutte aussi importante que celle du racisme. Canada, on l'a mentionné tout à l'heure et c'est très malheureux. Il y a quelques jours à peine sur le côté de London, un crime odieux qui a décimé une famille, malheureusement, avec un jeune orphelin, le jeune Payès de 9 ans à peine. Donc oui, c'est au Canada, oui, c'est chez nous, oui, c'est dans notre cour et ce sont tous des gestes qui sont intolérables et qui sont inexcusables et pour lesquels on doit mettre tous les efforts nécessaires pour les enrayer. Donc très très content de voir la jeunesse mobilisée parce que sans les jeunes, on ne pourra pas y venir à bout, mais voir aussi des parents accompagner cette jeunesse-là, se montrer mobilisée contre le racisme est également extrêmement réconfortant et ayons confiance pour la suite et travaillons ensemble. Merci tout le monde.
And the minister was saying earlier on that after the death of George Floyd, we created a working group to develop concrete actions to help us fight racism. And that group worked for about 3 months, met about 50 different community groups, and came out with 25 concrete actions, one of which was the creation of a ministry responsible for the fight against racism. That's a historical first for us in Quebec to have actually a minister and a civil service charged with the fight against racism. So we're confident that the needle's going to be moving forward on this issue. There's also a whole bunch of other measures, be it to stop random police stops, to also helping people get justice when they're discriminated against, when they're looking for an apartment. So there's a whole bunch of measures, and we hope that you guys will join us in the fight against racism because, of course, it's intolerable. I myself have been a victim of discrimination in Quebec. Racism is real. It exists here. We have to fight it. It's a day-to-day thing, and we all have to be banded together. Very reassured to look around and see the youth around us that's going to help us lead that fight and be mobilized against racism. So very, very proud to be here. Thank you so much.
What are we going to do when we go home, those of us who have children? What are we going to tell our children about what we live today? What are we going to tell our neighbors, our streets, our districts, our cities, our elected body at all government levels to be able to get it? Because right now, if we're standing here today, we still don't get it. And I'm not a person of color. I can never begin to understand what people of color go through. That's why we need everybody in the community to reach out to us as they've done. We started some meetings with the community to be able to find some solutions, and we plan to continue this. Je veux remercier encore les organisateurs, mais surtout la jeunesse, parce que c'est le futur. On a un conseil jeunesse aussi à Pierrefonds-Roxborough. J'espère que les jeunes vont s'impliquer parce que ça nous prend des gens et ça nous prend la diversité aussi. Merci à vous tous. Bonne chance et la porte est toujours ouverte.
I know that I want to talk about privilege and how you guys can make a difference using your privilege. Too often I see people behind closed doors not standing up for marginalized and racialized communities. Trop souvent, je vois les gens cachés derrière des portes fermées, ne pas défendre les communautés marginalisées et racialisées. It's important for you to step up and use your privilege to make things right. Il est important pour vous de mobiliser et d'utiliser votre privilège pour changer les choses. Don't be a bystander. Be an ally to the movement and be a difference maker. Ne soyez pas un spectateur. Soyez un allié du mouvement et faites la différence. Everyone here has either eaten Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, or Indian food. Tout le monde ici a déjà mangé à un restaurant chinois, vietnamien, coréen, japonais ou indien. You listen to jazz, hip-hop, R&B, reggae music. Vous écoutez du jazz, du blues, du hip-hop, du R&B et du reggae. You've gone on vacation to Jamaica, Barbados, Morocco, Dubai, Cuba, Mexico. Vous êtes déjà parti en vacances en Jamaïque, la Barbade, Maroc, Dubaï, Cuba ou la Mexique. But you can't openly denounce racism. You can't openly denounce Asian hate, anti-Semitism, anti-black racism or Islamophobia. Mais nous ne pouvons pas dénoncer ouvertement le racisme, la haine asiatique, l'antisémitisme, le racisme anti-noir ou l'islamophobie. You love our black swag. You love our black expressions. You love our black fashion and culture. Vous aimez la culture de Jackie Chan, Lucy Liu, Gad Gadot, Adam Sandler, Priyanka Chopra, Salma Hayek, J-Lo, Drake, Zayn Malik, DJ Khaled, another one. Rihanna, Aziz Ansari, BTS, or on vacation, you're dancing to salsa merengue and getting your hair braided. You love rocking our team's jerseys. Vous aimez porter les chandails des équipes. Chicago Blackhawks, Atlanta Braves, Kansas City Chiefs, Florida State Seminoles. But you can't openly show love and support for these communities. Mais vous ne pouvez pas montrer ouvertement votre amour et votre soutien à ces communautés. Your silence equals violence. Votre silence équivaut à la violence. My message to you, to your peers, to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues, don't turn a blind eye to what's wrong. Mon message à vous, à vos pères, à vos amis, à votre famille, à vos collègues, ne fermez pas vos yeux sur qui est injuste. Utilisez votre privilège pour vous exprimer et dénoncer ceux qui ne veulent pas et soutenir les communautés marginalisées, racialisées et discriminées. Use your privilege to speak up, to denounce what's wrong and support marginalized, racialized, and discriminated against communities. N'oubliez pas, ne soyez pas un spectateur, soyez un allié du mouvement et faites la différence. Remember, don't be a bystander. be an ally to the movement, and be a difference maker. Merci, thank you.
The following spoken word was created to showcase the societal discrimination and violence against Black people around the world. Whether it be by beauty, whether it be by beauty and societal standards, police brutality, violence, injustice, or lack of representation, I want to send a message that our lives do indeed matter and that we have value just as much as anyone else. Why can't you see me? Is my complexion too dark for you to see? Are my luscious lips preventing you from hearing my pleas? Why can't you see me? Is my hair blocking your field of vision? Is it a premonition that my life rests upon your decisions? Why can't you see me? Is my nose too ethnic? Does it make you skeptic, or does it showcase that to you, I am pathetic? Why can't you see me? Do I not measure up with the standards you inflict upon my race? Are we seen as a disgrace? Is that why you spray our faces with mace? Are my hands reaching out to the sky a weapon as they beg the sun to light up my skin to make my gestures more visible? More visible to you? You, the one that is trying to kill my brothers and sisters. You, the one that does not believe that my life matters. Does me being Black make you want to shoot me? Do I deserve to be shot at? Am I an object that should be disposed of? Do I really matter? You don't have the right to take the lives away from my brothers and sisters. We have rights. We are educated. We matter. You may take our awards. You may take our ideas. You may take our beliefs. And you may even try to take our dreams. But you only make us work 10 times harder. Because we are visionaries, authors, poets, doctors, musicians, scientists, politicians, diplomats, officers. We can be anything we dreamed of. We should have the same opportunities as you, yet still, why can't you see me?
Hi everyone, I'm going to be reading a letter on behalf of CIJA, which is a Jewish organization here in Montreal. This has been a difficult year. As if the pandemic, lockdowns, and related hardships weren't enough, we have seen incidences of hate on the rise in our communities targeted. Roughly a year ago, we gathered in solidarity following the brutal killing of George Floyd, pledging to fight anti-Black racism together. Like anti-Jewish hatred, otherwise known as anti-Semitism, anti-Black racism is a scourge with deep-seated roots. It has no place here or anywhere, period. These are trying times. Anti-Black, anti-Jewish, and anti-Asian sentiment are on the rise throughout North America. And we all watched in horror when an innocent Muslim family was run over by a crazed fanatic in London, Ontario. Racism is wrong, it is ugly, and it must end. Montreal's Jewish community has experienced an unprecedented level of anti-Semitic incidences in the past months, following events in the Middle East, including violent attacks on the streets of Montreal, social media, and a car driving around largely Jewish suburb threatening to hurt Jews. We stand all together, and whether it is to fight hate online or in the streets, we are united together. Montreal's Jewish community is fully engaged on a wide range of human rights and social justice issues, and has spoken loudly and decisively against anti-Black racism, including racism directed at Black Jews and Jews of color. Federation CJA and its advocacy arm, the Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs, CIJA, have stood and will continue to stand together to shoulder with their friends and allies in the Black community. Our commitment to countering all forms of hate, be it anti-Semitism or other forms of racism, gender-based discrimination and bigotry, is long-standing and plays an important and ongoing part of the work that we continue to do each and every single day. For many years, our community has educated thousands upon thousands of students on the dangers of hate and racism through the Montreal Holocaust Museum, which plays a leading role in the fight against all forms of prejudice in Quebec. After centuries of anti-Jewish oppression and persecution that has led to inquisitions, pogroms, and the horrors of the Holocaust, we know racism and discrimination when we see it. That is why we can always count on the support of the Montreal Jews in unequivocally denouncing anti-Black hatred in all its vicious forms. The last year or so has been trying to say the least. Together we have weathered a devastating pandemic, and the surge of bigotry followed in its wake. We all remember and continue to mourn George Floyd and the countless other victims of anti-Black racism, all innocent and, most sadly, unspoken. Since last summer, CIJA has led important public policy proposals to better prevent and prosecute hate crimes that have disproportionately target Black and Jewish Canadians. We also organized an action summit, which included a keynote addressed by human rights activists Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King, in which we urged the federal government to establish a strategy to counter the growing threat of online and its violent repercussions on marginalized communities such as ours. The Jewish community has also been listening to members of the Black community in Canada and learning. As the request of leaders from the Black community, we have mobilized a call for better data collection, economic support for Black community, better equipping our police to counter hate crimes, and the implementation of measures to have our police services better reflect the diverse communities they serve. Today, as Jewish Montrealers and Jews from Halifax to Vancouver face an unprecedented surge in anti-Semitic incidences, we join you in committing to combating and eliminating anti-Black and anti-Jewish racism, and indeed all forms of racism in all places wherever they occur. As we join you today, we also take this opportunity to recognize the experience of Black Jews, biracial Jews, and Jews of color. Federation, CJA, and CIJA stand with you today and every single day and recommit ourselves to ensuring that you feel safe, secure, and honored in our community. Together, let us raise our voices to injustice and pledge to do all we can to make our country free of racism, hatred, and discrimination. Thank you.
My name is Baraka Mohammed, and I am a fiercely proud Canadian Muslim. Thank you, Youth Stars, for inviting me here today. I stand here before you today, heartbroken, and in the terrible attack that happened in London, Ontario, after it claimed the lives of 3 generations from one family. 4 family members died that day, leaving the 5th member, a 9-year-old boy, in the hospital. They were mowed down by a 20-year-old white man by the name of Nathaniel Veltman. And he had enough hate in his heart to kill people who looked like myself, like my mom, and like my family. I'm the director of the BHS Bison News, and I'm so proud to stand in solidarity and use my voice to speak up for those who are silenced. I stand as a proud ally of the Black, Asian, LGBTQ2S+, and Indigenous community, and all those who are marginalized by society. I speak up, I advocate, I learn, and then I unlearn, and then I advocate some more. I do all this, but right now I am hurting. The Muslim community is hurting, and I know that we are better when we celebrate our differences. Learn from one another and come together to make the world a better place. I refuse to allow those who hate in their hearts to try to tear us apart, try to put fear in our hearts, and try to convince us that we are not welcome. The truth is that we are. Each and every one of us are loved and we belong here. Rallies like this are important now more than ever. We need to come together to get to know one another, spread peace, build bridges, and make this world a better place for you and for me. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for coming out. Thank you to advocate for change. I guess I'll start off by saying that a year ago today, on June 12th, 2020, I founded a kindness initiative called Your Local Samaritan, where I teach others the importance of kindness and generosity in their day-to-day lives. And I think we could fight all these movements with empathy and kindness rather than anger. And I also think it's important to acknowledge that this isn't just a 24-hour initiative. You have to be actively anti-racist, anti-Islamophobic, anti-Asian hate. Support your Indigenous brothers and sisters because this is native land. And there's been a quote that has stuck with me for over a year now. It's by Martin Luther King Jr. And it goes, "Our lives begin to end the moment we become silent about the things that matter." Don't be silent. Every single one of you here has a voice, and you all have a platform too. I see so many people using phones. Use your phone for a platform. On social media, share anti-racist education. Invite your friends to protests like this, because years from now, we'll be at a pub with a friend, and you'll have a glass in your hand, and a light will shine through, and a rainbow will reflect onto the wall. And you'll remember these days. Memories will come flooding back to you of the days that rainbows were plastered all over the city, and the phrase "ça va bien aller" will come back to your head. It will be okay. And it's beautiful once you realize that rainbows are actually created when light hits water. It's bent and it's reflected, kind of like a mirror, and you get this beautiful reflection in the sky, and it's all different colors: red, yellow, orange, green, indigo, violet. Just like people, we're all different, we're all unique, and we all have a purpose to create some light. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
Usually, ignorance and misinformation breeds intolerance, hatred, which then breeds violence. So yes, we should always fight violence, we should always fight discrimination. It is important, we will continue to do that. But at the origin of all that is ignorance, lack of information, being afraid of the other. And that is something that we all of us, not just elected officials, but everybody, but especially elected officials, we have a big responsibility to pass on the appropriate type of information so that we can fight this mistrust of the other, which breeds racism, which breeds violence. So let us all continue to do that effort to inform us all that we are all human beings, we are all brothers and sisters. You know, it still amazes me that some people are not able to see that. So my only message for you today, yes, we'll fight discrimination, we'll fight violence, obviously, we'll denounce Islamophobia, we'll denounce racism, obviously, but let's work together, let's inform each other of the true origin of life, that we are all human beings, we are all the same. Thank you.
And that's why days like today are so important, to see so many people from all walks of life get together. We have to work together, we have to push society forward. And yes, we can take steps back, never forget that, never take anything for granted. So everyone, enjoy your Saturday. Everyone here who's helped, us out as MNAs to educate us how we can be better, how we can better understand racism and fight against it, discrimination, hate, that concoction that leads to problems in our society. I really appreciate it. Jim Bass, thank you very much for your leadership, which is constant. And also, I don't know if Benoit's still around, but just Benoit, merci beaucoup pour le travail que vous avez fait pour les 100 abris de Montréal. Honnêtement, c'était formidable. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
So I'm a youth activist myself, and I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I really don't know what to do, especially during times as such. I mean, we consistently see in the news all these horrible things happening to different people just because of their differences. So sometimes I sit and I think, what can I do? And I really don't know what I can do. But then I remember that we are the youth, and we have a voice, and we are the future. Because we have the power to influence the generations that came before and that will come after us. Because we have this voice, and because we have the platforms that we do to use our voices. And if you're not sure what to do, you can always reach out to elected officials. You can volunteer for organizations that advocate for equality amongst all. There's lots of things that we can do, and it might feel, because you're young, like you can't do it. But you absolutely can. When I was in high school, I co-organized a protest against systemic discrimination. And you can do it too, because we have support with each other. Right here, everyone here, this is the first step in recognizing our injustices in our society. So keep yourself educated, keep yourself aware, and volunteer for different organizations. Try to find groups in your school like Student Council or Model United Nations. Learn about what's happening in society and do something about it. Use your voice. You have the tools to do it. So thank you everyone for coming out today, and if you have any questions about what you can do for youth activism, please let me know, and we'll keep doing it together. Thank you everyone.
Assume that I'm walking around with bombs in my backpack. I am not a terrorist. Black Lives Matter. You said that months ago just to fit in with the others, to make yourself look good. If people really cared, they would still be just as involved now as they were when George Floyd passed. Say their names. 28-year-old Tatiana Jefferson, who was shot and killed by the police through the window of her home in the presence of her 8-year-old nephew. They were responding to a call from her neighbor who reported that their door was left open. 2019. 22-year-old Stephen Clark, who was standing in his grandmother's backyard. The officers say that they believed he was holding his gun. They shot him more than 20 times. He was only holding his mobile phone. 2018. 12-year-old Tamir Rice, who was playing with a toy gun in a park. Police shot him and tackled his 14-year-old sister Tajai to the ground, handcuffed her, and placed her in the back of a police car. It took the police 4 minutes to administer first aid to Tamir. He passed away in the hospital the following day, 2014. What does this say about us? People are judging others based on the color of their skin because of the pigmentation of another human being's skin. We are all human. Apparently, I am like a dog to some others. This is how people see us, an animal or a killer. Keep your children away from us. We are dangerous. We will blow up your house. What is wrong with society today? We are losing all faith in humanity. Thank you.
We all have a role to play. It's not only the federal government or provinces or the cities. It's each and every person within civil society. As individuals, we can all make a difference, and we must all make a difference. If we lay it on the shoulders of elected officials alone, nothing will change. We have to recognize that. So I ask that when you're in your family circles, in your social circles, if you hear somebody disparaging somebody else, for whatever reason, intervene. I ask you to intervene and to say a good word about that person, about their background, because words do matter. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
They will stop at nothing when threatened with the success of Black, Indigenous, or people of color making it in the world on their own terms. They will stop at nothing and create meticulous obstacles in every day and way that they can to remind the BIPOC that they are in control. The purpose and sole agenda is to obey. I do find the effort as easy as it is for them to do this as an act of deflection and really short of an exercise in showboating and self-praise. What it truly lacks is a soul that creates our art history and resilience so much more felt and authentic to the human experience. Yes, you hold all the keys to the kingdom. Yes, you can murder us and delegate our futures at will. The fate of millions, maybe billions, are in your control. Yes, Master, yes. That is amazing. Can you show us more? The energy and inspiration that fuels and brings forth the spirit that refuses to obey and die will live into eternity, and when the real judgment comes from the highest power, everyone will come to the face of their doings. The Indigenous man is a bystander in a war that is not his own, and still gives his life in the daily in this continuing genocide. I stand for the fallen and voiceless and simply say, what's next? You hold all the cards and you hold all the guns. Yes, you are the ones who define the future of many. Impressive. We just want peace and respect.
Everyone, I'd just like to start off by saying a big thank you to the Youth Stars Foundation and Overture with Arts, Malik Shahid, for organizing this important event today. I'm so happy to be here with all of you to show my support. I believe we should all support one another to fight the unfortunate injustices in today's society. Although I have personally never been discriminated against, I still think it's very important to come out, to be here, and show my support and fight for those who have been. We should not be discriminated against because of the color of our skin. There should be no room for racism, as we are all equal human beings. It's important that we all show and support one another despite where we come from, no matter the color of our skin, and no matter who we choose to love. We must rise above hatred and discrimination in society. I'm happy to see so many of you come out today and show your support for both Youth Stars and Overture with the Arts for an important cause. I'm so proud to be a part of this organization that supports and encourages anti-racism. It's great to see everyone here today shine a light on this important cause, and let's continue to spread awareness so that one day racism, discrimination, and injustices will be non-existent. One way that we can overcome racism is through education and talking about it more openly from a young age, teaching it in school, having real conversations, and by never ignoring acts of racism or discrimination. Always speak up. Thank you.
And at today's event, people here are able to choose many different ways to express yourselves. I love seeing all of your signs, music, dancing. Here we are in community gathering. There's many different ways to make your voice heard, and being a part of this is definitely one of them. So please all be really proud of yourselves today, as we must continue to face these issues, because as you see, they happen all the time. Some are very public and some are not. Some happen to your neighbors, some happen to your family members, some might even happen to you. So it's important, like I said, to keep this conversation going. So seize the opportunity, and as a society, we're at this pivotal moment in history where now more than ever, communities across the country and internationally are coming together, doing their part to raise awareness and to try to bring about systemic changes to end racism and social justice wherever it appears. So we're here as the board listening. You have many, like I said, opportunities to have your voices heard, your concerns heard, and like I said, stay tuned for the delivery of this report, and the work will continue. So the floor is open to continue this dialogue amongst all of us, so please be a part of the change you want to see. Thank you.
Thinking about going to make a life for your family and you can't speak about being discriminated against? When we talk about racism, quand on parle de racisme, most of you have probably seen this photo of an iceberg, and we only see the tip of the iceberg. It's up to all of us, all our federal, provincial, municipal, les organismes communautaires, les jeunes, les aînés, the seniors, to come together with a strategy that's going to work.
When I look in the mirror, I see nothing wrong. I see no flaw from the bottom of my toes to the top of my head. But when I step outside of my house, some of the world's population only sees me as a flaw. Why is that so? If the color of my skin could tell you its story and explain why, it would take years. 400 years to be exact. The number of years that slavery and segregation lied on our earth, but to this day, I'm still looked as just another flaw in supremacy's land needing to be fixed. Systematic racism remains a problem in today's society because of the uneducated citizens on the topic at hand. 3 ways that can help us realize how citizens will be better informed are by understanding the roots of racism, its relationship with social institutions, and the ultimate goal. When it comes to educating the society, we first need to talk about who is educating. The schools are the ones not providing the correct information to the students, or maybe not informing them at all about what is happening in the days of segregation and racism. When I take a moment to think about what I've learned in school about the topic, I can't say much. The only time we spoke of the issue was in the month of February, which is conveniently enough since it's Black History Month. This is considered to be the root of the problem, as we are not informed as a school while we are young. We will not understand by the time the population is grown. Another root of racism is how people fail to recognize it as a whole. Many people believe that racism only comes from slavery and segregation, but can be seen in the smallest ways if you really look at it. Racism can be found in anything said, even though no racial slurs are used. Such things as when people say, "I don't see color," can have a big impact because it may seem as if you don't see the individual for who they are, or you do not see their color, but it's something that they portray as who they are. Secondly, racism regarding social institutions. Hashtag Black Lives Matter is a protest against police brutality towards people of color. This slogan was created in 2013 by 3 women of color, which are Alicia, Patrice, and Opal. This movement was initially created after the murder of Trayvon Martin, realizing that things need to stop and change has to come. Protests and movements like these need to be created and publicized to different communities so that everyone can realize what is going wrong in this world. The first step in solving a problem is recognizing there is one, and that was said by William McAvoy. Since all of the police brutality and the realization of injustice that still exists today, several large companies have pushed the idea that Black lives do matter, and the corporation acknowledges this. Many businesses feel that just stating the fact is insufficient, but that contributing large sums of money would aid to the reduction of number of colored people living in poverty. Companies and celebrities have raised over $90 million, which is mind-blowing. And if there's no diverse representation in the media prior to Black Lives Matter, there is now more of it, which should have existed from the start. This indicates that there was a problem with people of color being a minority in high-end businesses, and still some don't advocate diversity at all. Lastly, the common goal we are trying to achieve is to eliminate police brutality against people of color and end discrimination altogether. Did you know Black people make up 8.8% of Toronto's population, but are targets of 41.1% of cases involving excessive police force? Just this fact alone in one city shows you how much police brutality contributes to the racism in this world. The goal we're aiming for is to teach officers to always reach for their taser rather than their weapon, and to treat African Americans with the same respect as Caucasian citizens. At the end of the day, there were both people who can make the same decisions. We also want to educate the public so that they understand why it is necessary, because some people do not think in the same way as the rest of the population. The ultimate goal is to have respect for one another and pursue a shared goal of peaceful sharing the world amongst all races, regardless color or heritage. We all bleed the same, so why not see the same to come to a common goal? In conclusion, systematic racism remains a problem in today's society because of the uneducated citizens at the topic at hand. Understanding the origins of racism, its interactions with social institutions, and the ultimate goal are 3 ways that can make people understand how citizens can be better educated. We've learned that we need to share a common understanding of how Black culture can be taught in classrooms, that we need to keep bringing Black Lives Matter to various industries and encourage diversity for all racial groups, and that racism must be completely eliminated to come to a common goal of respect amongst all communities.
It is not our differences that divide us, it's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. Thank you.